Hey guys, welcome back to the Lou Perez Podcast on the Lions of Liberty Podcast Network. I am your host, Lou Perez, and today I am joined by the Vice President of Growth at Prospera. Give it up for Lonis. There he is. There's no live studio audience. We're just
I was imagining some claps in the background, but it's great to be here.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for taking the time. So you have a very unique position at a very unique organization. For those who don't know what Prospera is, what's your pitch? And as the VP of Growth, I know that you have a pitch on what this is. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so the very high level pitch is that with Prospera, we're inventing a new industry we call governance as a service. Right. So basically, we partner with host countries. Our first partner is Honduras, where we basically provide this special economic zone, but they are not typical special economic zones. They are special economic zones because they have this level of deep regulatory and legal freedoms, which allows us to design most of our own laws, regulations, taxes, justice system, and security within those hubs. Right. And so we have the first Prospera zone on the island of Roatán, outside of Honduras. And yeah, we've been around since around 2020 was when we broke ground. And then just yesterday, actually, we crossed 350 companies incorporated in Prospera. We have around 250 people living here, up from maybe 150 people only a year ago. So we're growing fast, but from a very low baseline. And it's very fun to work on.
Yeah. And I remember a few years ago reading about there seemed to be some pushback from the government of Honduras or the incoming government or something like that. Can you explain like some of the hurdles that you guys had to get over, or maybe you're still dealing with?
Still dealing with. So these projects take a long time, right? So the enabling legislation that passed that allows for these types of special zones in Honduras, it passed in 2013. And it was championed by Octavio Sanchez, which is a Honduran economist and chief of staff. And so it was passed in 2013. Prospera came in 2017 as a private developer of these zones, right? So we are, within our zones, we're providing the services the governments typically provide, but we're providing it as a company within these pockets. We came 2017 here, broke ground in 2020. And in 2021, we had a change of administration to a very anti-business and thus also anti-Prospera administration. And so one of their top 3 campaign promises was actually to kill Prospera. And it was one of the things they ran on, mostly because it's very easy to make, to come up, with different slogans around or, what have you. And unfortunately, but they've been in power now for 3.5 years, almost 4 years. And when they came into power, we were less than 20 companies in Prospera. And now, almost 4 years later, we're more than 350 companies, right? So they haven't actually been able to slow us down, but not to stop us. And the reason for that is that when we came here, we made a legal stability agreement with Honduras that is enriched in international treaties, right? So we're part of the US-Honduras trade treaty via CAFTA-DR. We're part of the UK-Honduras trade treaty, even the Kuwait-Honduras trade treaty. So these treaties are very durable. They don't tend to change much. And so this is what gives us the stability that even when we have literally the most, negative administration that you could imagine, we still have this, durability. And there's an election in November, and there's a decent good chance at this point that there will be a change of administration and we'll have a positive, administration for the first time in 4 years.
Yeah.
And
it's it's something that at least to me is so clear where, you guys are setting up this very special place that is attracting businesses because of what you're offering them. And then you have the people, some of the people in Honduras looking at that and saying, oh, we want to control that. And they don't understand, well, if you controlled that, these businesses wouldn't want to be here because there's obviously a reason why they're choosing to be there as opposed to the mainland of Honduras. And it just seems like it's always, especially in Latin America where things have been so, so up and down, for so long. It's like it must be a challenge to get it through to people like, hey, just because we're having success here doesn't mean that you're going to, you know, you're not going to do well as well.
Sure. Yes, and there's a big difference between the country of Honduras and any particular administration, right?
Right, right,
Administrations
right.
come and go, but if you ask the people of Honduras, they all want jobs. They all understand the importance of investments and opportunities that bring. And so, especially on the island is quite big. It's called the Roatán, so it's 100,000 people. And you know, if you ask most people here, they have a great view of Prospera because they directly see the benefits. They have friends living and working here. We generated more than 3,000 jobs locally since we set up, and these are jobs that are at least 25% better paid than the national average. And so they see that. However, on the mainland, people are a little bit less connected because they don't actually see the benefits. They only hear the media headlines, right? So there's a little bit of a difference in perception between people who live on the island, even if they live outside of Prospera, they kind of see the positive effects. Whereas if you live, further away, you don't see the benefits and you only hear the media headlines.
Yeah, and I wonder, how did you guys choose, to this relationship with Honduras? Because over the past 4 or 5 years or a little bit more, looking right next door to El Salvador and Bukele and the immense changes that he's making, I wonder, is there a part of you that's like, oh man, I kind of wish that we had worked with El Salvador and Bukele,
Yeah, we're impressed with what he's accomplished. I guess when the law passed in Honduras in 2013, it was really pushed through by Honduran champions, right? Octavio Sanchez was a Honduran economist, Carlos Pineda was a Honduran businessman, and they were really the ones who saw this type of legislation that allows for a zone like Prospera, can unlock massive amount of investment, massive amount of jobs, etc. And so, it's even though the current administration has been very negative, the country of Honduras have a history of really understanding the importance of freedom and liberty. And so, we are very happy to come to part of the country of Honduras. And we know that any country will have administrations come and go. And at the end of the day, that's life. And we've continued to grow, whether we have a good administration or bad administration, we'll continue to grow and do our job. And so that's kind of what we're focusing on.
Yeah. What kind of businesses have moved to Prospera?
Yeah, I would say not that many of these are moving, but they are being started in Prospera directly.
Started, yeah.
Because they are like, many cases they are doing things here that are not possible to do elsewhere, right? So we have one example is Unlimited Bio. It's a team of scientists from Eastern Europe that they were looking at this molecule that had been used to treat lymph disease in Eastern Europe for many decades, completely safely. And they saw that actually this molecule had very interesting implications for longevity biomarkers, like people seem to live longer with it. And so they wanted to go to market with this as a longevity drug in the US. However, they found out that the FDA actually would require them to do trials for more than a decade, and it would cost them more than $500 million, right? So that's why you don't see many biotech startups. You only see the big pharma, right? Because it's so hard to get through the regulatory hurdles. And so instead, they went down to Prospera, where they started the company here, and they had the first customers here now for their longevity drug. And actually, a few weeks ago, the Kardashians even, took was one of their early customers for this longevity drug. And so that's kind of one example. We have Circular Factory, which is robotics. They are wooden manufacturing, but they're using advanced robotics to make very complex wooden structures that make up the different parts of Prospera. We have the Blink wallet, which is one of the fastest growing Bitcoin wallets in Latin America. Many parts of Latin America have massive problems with inflation and the currency instability. And so, especially in Prospera, but also in different parts of Latin America, you have a very high concentration of payments being done via crypto. So I paid for my protein drink this morning on Blink on just Bitcoin. And I would say maybe 30 to 40% of the Prospera economy runs on blockchain, like either on Solana or Ethereum or Bitcoin. So I guess those would be some examples.
Yeah. So, getting a company to start in a new city, like say in the US,
Yes.
The city and the local government needs to make it attractive. And then when the company starts up, then the company also has to say, how does the company lure, new people to, to work there and all that. So, you guys obviously have, the businesses that are coming in. Uh, what does life look like outside of that as far as, restaurants and nightlife
Mm.
and things like that? Because, obviously nobody's working, all day, although maybe at the robotics company, they have robots
Right.
working all
Right.
day.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good question. So we have two restaurants here, one smaller and one bigger one. We have a bar, and we have these two districts, where Christine Bay district, which has, a bunch of villas, a resort and hotel. And then we have another district, where I live, called the Beta district. And there we have a big residential tower. We have co-working spaces. We're building up the wet lab. We have the factory as well, the robotics factory. And so, um, you know, so there, and that's mostly, aligns with entrepreneurs and couples. And so, um, so that's kind of how, the kind of physical composition. And, it's on a larger island, right? So you can also go, if you want to go to a very big resort, or you want to go to a spa or a clinic, you can do that all around the island, just outside of the Prospera jurisdiction.
Mhm.
And, it has, what on the island we're on, it has the world's second largest coral reef. So there's around 1 million visitors per year coming here to do scuba diving and stuff like that.
Nice. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, you said that you have a hotel. I'm like wondering, yeah, as far as like, is tourism going to be a big part of the local economy there, you think?
Yeah. No, to some extent, yes. I mean, we have the resort, and the island as a whole is a massive tourism magnet already, which is very convenient for us because it means we have direct flights from Miami and Houston every day, coming down to the island. But I think mostly within Próspera there will be some tourists, but I think mostly it will be, more high tech industry. What we're seeing so far is, crypto, fintech, biotech,
Yeah.
also, entrepreneurs, solo entrepreneurs, stuff like that.
Yeah, with just looking at like, local reports in the US when it comes to like Silicon Valley and, San Francisco and kind of how how bad things have gotten in San Francisco. Are you guys seeing, kind of more, tech companies jump ship and say, all right, we're getting the hell out of here? Because a lot of people, I guess a lot of companies were kind of moving out to like Austin, Texas. Like
Yeah.
that's where they've seen like a big boom. Is that a similar thing with Prospera?
hmm Yeah. So, I mean, I was in a situation, right, where I lived in San Francisco for some time. I was about to move there permanently, and then I, moved out to Prospera instead. It is still somewhat of a jump, right? We haven't quite reached critical mass here in Prospera yet, right? We're, maybe 250 people living here. I think once we reach maybe 800, 1,000 people, we'll have enough of an economy internally to kind of support, 90% of the amenities that you would expect. There's always enough interesting people around, but we're not quite there yet. We're growing quickly towards that, but that's kind of one thing that's kind of, I think, temporary, um, a roadblock in that way. But we definitely have companies, especially in the biotech, crypto, and fintech space, who are just exiting these traditional jurisdictions because the regulatory environment is just too uncompetitive, or too, in many cases, just like also not clear whether you can do something. And I have so many friends in crypto, especially during the Biden years, they never knew it. They tried to get clarity on whether they could launch their stable coin or whether it could tokenize this product, and the SEC never told them, and they just sometimes randomly showed up at their doors,
Oh,
told them
wow.
that they were doing something illegal, and so it was just a massive mess for such a long time. And I think, yeah, many people are kind of waking up to that. Traditional governments, they are not really that good at providing these services that want us citizens and people, right? We want rule of law, we want some basic security, we want the basic regulatory environment, but it should be done in a good and business and customer friendly way, right? So I think many people, and this is are waking up to that. Okay, maybe we should run provide these governance services this should be private entities, companies doing that in the same way that it's private companies that are building out the real estate of new cities, right? We should also provide the governance services of new cities. But yeah, it's still very early days. Very early days. Still.
Oh yeah, I mean, you talked about the legislation being passed in 2013, and you guys have been around, for 5 years. Yeah, it's very early, and here's something where, I don't know how you identify, but I'm a I guess I'm a libertarian, an American
Sure.
libertarian, and what libertarians often come up against is people always say, "Oh, yeah, well, where has libertarianism ever worked? Where has
Right.
it ever been
Right.
tried?" And I think what you guys are obviously doing, what, other free cities are doing around the world, is providing that experiment in real time and saying, "Okay, you've asked for, the experiment. This is what we're doing. This is how we're going about it." When it comes to
Correct.
Prospera and taking care of, like, those, you know, basic, necessities of, security and that sort of thing. Is there a system of taxation that's involved, and what does that look like?
Yeah. No, for sure. And yeah, yes, I think we are the team here is very inspired by the original freedom thinkers, mostly coming from the states. And I think this is really pure really voluntary project, right? Where the zones we're building, they're being built from nothing, right? I mean, tower I'm sitting in, it was just forest here before. It's it's not as we're buying or taking over other people's land. We're really just building from scratch, and people can opt in or opt out depending on the quality of the jurisdiction, right? And the service we're providing is, again, security, your company registrar, right? So you can create companies here, whether you live here or live elsewhere. We have a regulatory system based on insurance. Which is also kind of, a free thinker kind of uh, model of regulation. But these governance services, they cost something, right? And we are a company. We aim to return money to the shareholders, and so our business model is taxes. And so we have a 5% personal income tax. We have a 1% business tax. We have a 2.5% sales tax. And then lastly, we have a 1% land value tax, Georgia's land value tax. And so that's basically, the revenue that we get in exchange for providing the governance services.
And is it a set, those, percentages? I would imagine it wouldn't be a progressive one, so, you know.
Yeah, no, it's certainly not progressive. We don't believe in that. And yeah, there are sets, and there's a constitutional cap on the amount of taxation we can move towards in the future even. So in our constitution, it says that we can never exceed more than 7.5% taxes as a percentage of the GDP,
Mhm.
right? So if you look at the US and France and Germany and Sweden, it's 30, 40, 50%, right? Constitutionally, we can never exceed 7.5%. And currently we're way below that. And also on top of that, we can change the taxes, from 5 to 6%. However, that's it. However, once you come here and you sign a resident agreement, you get the contractual right to legal stability, right? Which means that we can never increase the tax on you. You will always be grandfathered into the best possible tax and regulatory regime, which is very different from the way other jurisdictions work, where you go there, you set up a business, or you move with your family, and then there's an election, right? And then everything
Right.
changes. And so here you actually have predictability and stability in a contractual form.
Hmm. And how does it, so you have 250 people, I'm imagining, quite a few of them are, citizens of other countries. Uh,
Sure.
yeah, how does that work? Do they have to get, like, some kind of dual citizenship, or yeah, how's that work?
Yeah, no. So Honduras had a very good immigration system. I can say if you're North American or European passport holder, you can come to Honduras and stay here for 3 months, at a time, without the visa. So it's very easy to visit. And if you want to live here, you can file a residency application. It's quite simple. You have to open a bank account, deposit a little bit of money. And then once you file your residency application, you can stay in the country and leave and come back whilst it's processing. And then typically they accept, if you don't have a shady background, and then you can live here, right? So you don't get the passport, but you get the residency. And then, after X number of years, you can apply to get the passport and citizenship as well if you wish to do so. But it's not really something you need to become a resident of Honduras or a tax resident of Prospera, for instance.
Hmm. And with, what's it like? living in a place where there's only 250 people. Like, I
Yeah.
I know you see
Well,
the same people every day. What is that? What's up?
well, well. The question is like how quickly does the number change, right? So when I came here, we were 150 people, and so we added like 100 people in a year,
Mhm.
and so that's really the key thing is that we are a small but very growing community, quickly growing community, and it's very fun. I've noticed to just be part of something that's growing. Like even if the infrastructure here is very nascent still, the community is nascent. It's growing every day. Every week there's something interesting new, and yeah, it's quite a fun environment to be in.
Yeah, and as the VP of growth, what are what are some of the things that you're doing to try to grow, the amount of people there? I mean, I would imagine having babies would be that would be one way to grow things, but they take a while. They take a while.
Yes, agreed. So that's one way, and we're working on that. And when I joined, one of the big things that folks already on was just creating more awareness about us. We had brought a bunch of influencers here. Did published a bunch of content, so we have a decent awareness. Not many people know about Prospera. Still, not many people understand Prospera, right? So
Yeah.
there's still a big gap between awareness and understanding. We have events basically every month now, so it's much easier to come and have a good time. Every month we have the Prospera weekends where kids come down for a weekend to check it out. There's also these longer events. We have a Solana hackathon currently. We have a Bitcoin district event in November. We have a games tournament in February. So just kind of having more of these events being set up. And then also now that we have success on all those things, we're running up on the real estate bottleneck. Right. So how do we build more villas? How do we build more towers? How do we get external real estate developers to come in here and build? So that's been a recent focus as well.
Yeah, and with that, with building, I've never been to Honduras before, so I don't know, what the terrain is like. But yeah, is it, has it been difficult? I mean, is it jungle? Is it a beach? Like, what are you like building on?
Yeah, no, it's like Caribbean, a little bit similar to maybe the climate in Miami, let's say, or
Oh, okay.
Caribbean climate, right? So a lot of greenery, very humid, very hot, and yeah, white beaches, stuff like that.
hmm Yeah, when you say Miami, I remember I went to Miami for my bachelor party. That's like going on 7, 8 years ago, and
Right.
I was walking around, and it felt like I was in a shower. It was so humid and steamy. I said it was like I was walking through soup. That's what it sort of felt like. So yeah, I hope you.
Yeah, well, I'm surviving. I mean, I'm from Sweden, so it's a very big climate difference here versus Sweden. But I noticed that you acclimatize quite quickly. Like after a few months, you actually acclimatize,
Mhm.
and there's a lot of wind here as well. So I think it's more windy here than typically it's in Miami.
Yeah, yeah. Some years ago, I shot a documentary in Sweden. It was my first time there, and I
Yeah.
guess I was there during the winter months, and I was just, we had to film so much stuff, but we had such a short window because it got so dark so early. I
Right.
think it might have been like 3 in the afternoon, and
Yeah, yeah,
and it
for
was
sure.
black,
No, by free,
and
it's like, yeah,
and
it's
I was like,
unbelievable. Yeah.
and it threw me off, like,
Mm.
so, so incredibly. So, yeah, so
Yeah.
how'd you make the move from Sweden to, where you are today? Like, how'd you get involved in this? What's your story, Lonis, I guess?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, so I'm from Sweden. I spent a few weeks in college in Sweden. Then I dropped out and started this AI company. It was pre-GPT, like 2019. So you could only do like boring traditional AI companies at the time. We did like AI optimization and e-commerce. We call it Depict. And we grew the company to around 25. It's raised 20 million. That company is still going on, but we brought in externals. Me and my co-founder, we brought in an external CEO after some time to do day-to-day stuff. Um, and then my co-founder Anton, he went on to found Lovable, which is AI tool, AI website tool, and I'm small investor there. And then I kind of went on to explore a bit more broadly. A year ago, I was actually about to move to the Bay Area to start a new AI company there, doing AI agents. We call it God Mode. And I just got my O1 visa to be able to live in the US full time. And but just a few weeks before I was moving, I kind of read about Prospera for the first time, and it immediately clicked. because I've been very inspired by the liberty movement for a long time, and I've been very depressed by the state of governments in Sweden and the US and elsewhere. And so when I read about Prospera, it's like, okay, this is actually a potential solution to the problem I've been kind of lamenting. And so I thought, okay, if I'm moving from Stockholm to San Francisco, I can just as well stay on Roatán on the island here for a few weeks to check it out. But then when I came here, I read about the Constitution and how it worked in depth, and it really aligned with me. So I ended up signing my US O1 visa, and then left my startup and moved here exactly a year ago now.
Wow. Are you still doing any work in the AI world on the side while you're doing this?
No, I've come to learn that this is a 200% job. It requires a lot of time and attention. So, yeah, I'm fully focused on Prospera.
Yeah, and with with AI, how do you feel about it? Because I know a lot of people are scared. I want to know if I should be scared, and
Right.
and obviously you might be able to use that as a sales pitch. You're like, hey, if you're scared of AI, you got to get down to Prospera, where you could be protected from the artificial intelligence.
Yeah, well, I mean, these things are very hard to predict. Um, I mean, I'm very bullish on AI. AI kind of contributing more and more to the economy and doing large amounts of the work that we're currently doing. And whether that means that they will have drives to take over or do whatever, I'm not so sure. I would want to see more evidence, right? I have many friends who's been in the AI movement since 2017, and they are all thinking about these things and are a bit worried. But I guess what I haven't seen yet is like evidence really of the agents having this tendency. So we're big users of AI. We just launched a big AI tool, an AI paralegal. We call it an AI Prospera paralegal. So you can get 95% of your legal questions. You don't have to go to counsel. You can go to this AI, and it has access to all of the Prospera documentation. So we're kind of trying to incorporate AI into our governance system as best as we can.
Yeah, I imagine I think one good thing about all the humidity, I think, would be bad for the robots who come to try to take over, right? That just
guess
be
so.
short circuit and all that. What is how do you guys get your power? Where's the power come from? The electricity?
So there is a utilities company on the island we're buying electricity from, and we also have this Costa Rican company that is coming in to do solar panels.
Nice.
But the regulatory system we have allows for maybe fusion power at some point, and stuff like that. We have in Prospera we don't have a traditional regulatory permitting process, right?
Mhm.
So our regulatory process is based on insurance. So whether you want to do a fusion power plant, or you want to do you want to launch a new gene therapy, or you want to do a new stable coin, or you want to do a new drone thing. What you don't go to the agency like the equivalent of the FDA or the SEC or the FTC or the NRC. We don't have the equivalent of those agencies. What we have is instead a market of insurance companies. So what you have to do is, as a company, you can choose the regulatory framework you want to operate under. So you can choose to operate under French law, German law, Delaware law, or you can operate under your own custom regulatory framework that you propose and develop. But then before you can go to market, you need to go to an insurance company and get a liability policy. Right? So in effect, the insurance companies become the regulators, because they will look at your business and your regulation of choice and your products and say, is this safe enough to underwrite, right? And give the policy to. And obviously, if you're trying to do heart transplants, you don't have a surgeon on your team, you will not be handed out a policy, because you will be sued into oblivion if something bad happens. We have an arbitration centers here, which is very affordable and cheap and easy to get justice. And so that's basically the regulatory system, and that's been the massive unlock for these traditionally regulated companies to come here. On the base level, we have common law, but then we have this custom regulatory framework for regulated industries.
Yeah, yeah. It's I mean, it's what do they say? There's something like if you're a brilliant person, you might sound like a crazy person to like someone who's not brilliant. And really, there is something, I think there is something to that, because it's like you guys really are, doing something that is so unique. And I've heard of some other places trying to do similar things around the world. Like one is the sea was it the Seasteading Institute? Is that I know they're trying to, but that's more of like focused in like being at the sea and in the ocean. So,
Yeah, no, we're big fans of that project. I think that it will take maybe another decade or two until we have the infrastructure we needed for that, right? But their thesis is okay. All of the land on Earth is already claimed by governments, right? So, however, the seas aren't claimed. So, what if we go and build on top of the sea, of the international sea, and then we can have our own laws, regulations, taxes, right? We can live out the liberty dream. And I love that concept. I think it's just a bit too expensive to build these structures that can be on the open seas. I think again in another decade or two, I think we'll get there. And so what we're doing in Prospera is, we love that initiative. What we're doing here is we partner with those countries where we can get these high levels of liberty within zones, right? And these zones are then protected by international treaties and by all sorts of legal arrangements, which creates this durability. And so there's just two different paths to liberty, really.
Right on. Well, yeah, Lonis, I appreciate you taking the time to tell me about Prospera, and I think one thing that you guys need is you need a comedy show. And as a comedian, I would love to go down there and entertain you guys. So we could talk about that off camera. So everybody, I really hope you enjoyed this episode. It was a short one, but I think there's a lot of information there. Please check out Lonis and the work that he's doing over at Prospera. Thank you.